Welcome to The Joyful Alchemist, the podcast where transformation meets inspiration. My name is Lynn Falconer, your guide on this journey of turning life's ordinary moments into extraordinary magic. Here we dive into personal growth, spiritual insights, and practical tools to help you unlock joy, purpose, and abundance. Whether you're seeking clarity, courage, or connection, this is your space to explore, evolve, and embrace the alchemy of joyful living. Let's ignite transformation, one powerful conversation at a time. February 1. A growing nation in Egypt. Jacob's descendants, the children of Israel, had come to Egypt, each bringing their families. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. These were the tribes that grew from the 70 people who descended from Jacob. Joseph, one of Jacob's sons, was already in Egypt, having risen to power long before. In time, Joseph and all of his generation passed away, yet the Israelites flourished. They grew in numbers, prospering until they filled the land. Their strength became evident, and it did not go unnoticed. A new Pharaoh ascended the throne, one who had no knowledge of Joseph's legacy. Concerned by the increasing numbers of the Israelites, he gathered his advisors. The Israelites have grown too powerful. If war breaks out, they may join our enemies and escape from our land. We must act now. To suppress them, Pharaoh placed harsh taskmasters over them, forcing them into brutal labor. They were made to build cities, Pithom and Ramses, for Pharaoh's wealth. But despite the oppression, the Israelites multiplied even more. The Egyptians grew fearful of their strength. The oppression intensified. The Egyptians made their lives bitter with unrelenting work, brickmaking, field labor, and endless burdens. Pharaoh took even more drastic measures. He summoned the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, and commanded them, "When you assist Hebrew women in childbirth, if a son is born, kill him. If it is a daughter, she may live." But the wives feared God and refused to follow the order. They let the baby boys live. When Pharaoh confronted them, they replied, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are strong and give birth before we even arrive." Because of their faithfulness, God blessed the midwives, and the Israelites continued to grow. Furious, Pharaoh issued a terrifying decree. Every Hebrew boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile. The daughters may live. The birth of a deliverer. A man from the tribe of Levi took a wife from his own people. In time she bore a son. Seeing that he was a beautiful, healthy child, she hid him for 3 months. But as he grew, it became impossible to keep him hidden. Desperate to save her son, she crafted a small ark of papyrus reeds, sealing it with tar to make it waterproof. She placed the baby inside and set him among the reeds at the riverbank. His sister watched from a distance, waiting to see what would happen. Then Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe in the Nile. Her attendants walked along the riverbank, and as she gazed across the water, she noticed a small basket among the reeds. "Bring it to me," she commanded. When she opened the basket, she saw the baby. At that moment he began to cry. Compassion filled her heart. "This must be one of the Hebrew children," she murmured. The baby's sister approached. "Shall I find a Hebrew woman to nurse the child for you?" she asked. Pharaoh's daughter nodded. The girl rushed to fetch her mother. "Take this child," Pharaoh's daughter instructed the woman, "and nurse him for me. I will pay you." The mother took her son back into her arms, caring for him until he was old enough. Then she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Moses flees to Midian. Years passed, and Moses grew into a man. Though he lived in the palace, he could not ignore the suffering of his people. One day he went out and saw an Egyptian brutally beating a Hebrew slave. Anger surged in his chest. He looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then he struck the Egyptian down, killing him, and buried the body in the sand. The next day he saw 2 Hebrews arguing. "Why are you fighting your own brother?" he asked. The man replied, "Who made made you our ruler and judge. Are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" Moses' heart pounded. Word had spread. Pharaoh soon heard what had happened. Enraged, he sought to have Moses killed. But Moses fled, escaping to the land of Midian. Weary and alone, he sat by a well. There he saw 7 women, daughters of the priest of Midian, drawing water for their father's flock. A group of shepherds arrived and drove them away, but Moses stood and defended them, then helped water their flock. When the women returned home, their father Reuben asked, "How did you return so quickly?" "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds," they replied. "He even drew water for us." Reuben said, "And where is this man? Why did you leave him? Invite him to eat with us." Moses accepted the invitation and soon settled in Midian. Reuben gave his daughter Zipporah to him as a wife. She bore him a son, and Moses named him Gershom, meaning "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the king died. The Israelites, still enslaved, cried out in agony. Their prayers reached God, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God looked upon his people and saw their suffering. The burning bush. One day, as Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, he wandered near Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. Suddenly he saw something astonishing, a bush engulfed in flames, yet not burning up. "I must see this," Moses said, stepping closer. As he approached, a voice called from the flames, "Moses, Moses!" Moses froze. "Here I am," he said. "Do not come any closer," the voice warned. "Take off your sandals, for this is holy ground. I am the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Trembling, Moses hid his face. "I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt," God said. "I have heard their cries and know their pain. I have come to rescue them and bring them to a land flowing with milk and honey. And you, Moses, will go to Pharaoh and lead my people out of Egypt." Moses hesitated. "Who am I to stand before Pharaoh and lead the Israelites?" "I will be with you," God assured him, "and as a sign, when you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this very mountain." Moses asked, "When they ask me who sent me, what should I say?" God replied, "I am who I am. Tell them I am has sent me to you." God then commanded Moses to gather the elders of Israel and tell them of his plan. But he warned, "Pharaoh will not let you go easily. I will show my power, and then he will release you." Signs and wonders. Moses was still uncertain. "What if they don't believe me?" he asked. God said, "What is in your hand?" "A staff," Moses replied. "Throw it down." Moses obeyed. Instantly the staff transformed into a snake. Moses jumped back in fear. "Reach out and take it by the tail," God instructed. Hesitantly, Moses did so, and the snake became a staff again. God then told him to put his hand inside his cloak. When Moses pulled it out, his skin was leprous, white as snow. He did it again, and his hand was restored. "If they do not believe these signs," God said, "pour water from the Nile onto the ground. It will turn to blood." Still, Moses protested. "Lord, I am not a good speaker." "Who gave man his mouth?" God asked. "I will be with you." Moses pleaded, "Please send someone else." Angered, God replied, "Your brother Aaron speaks well. He will be your voice. Take your staff, for through it you will perform wonders." Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Joyful Alchemist, where transformation and joy collide. If today's episode inspired you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of magic. Keep shining, keep growing, and remember, you have the power to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Until next time, stay joyful and keep alchemizing your dreams into reality.